Mahomes back, throws. It is incomplete, picked off by the Lions. Brian Branch with it left side. He's gone, baby. He's going to the house. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Deflected in the air, Branch ran under it, and he took it all the way back.
Welcome to the 20 Minute Huddle podcast presented by Microsoft, and it is week 12 of the NFL season. You know what that means. It is Thanksgiving week for the Detroit Lions. I am here with Ben Raven, does a great job with Kyle Mikey for MLive, covering everything Detroit Lions. And Thanksgiving week is always a fun week, right, Ben? And for Detroit, it's Turkey Day. It's the annual game. It's a tradition here in Detroit like really none other.
No, it's a special day, and I'm thankful for my family that understands why I haven't been at a Thanksgiving in 5 or 6 years. But no, it really is a special day, and it feels a lot different this year. You know, this year it was kind of like looking at, or in years past, it's been looking ahead to the draft at this point. This is usually where I would start draft prospects, but now it's like, man, division titles within grasp, and there's crazy excitement. I'm looking forward to that Ford Field crowd tomorrow, or on Thursday, excuse me.
So I asked Ben on because it is our key matchup segment. We do it every week. We talk about basically 5 key matchups. Before we do that, let's talk a little bit about maybe the health of this football team. And I feel like I've got to do one of these things. It seems like I keep getting my guests taller and taller. How tall are you, Ben?
6'6".
6'6".
6'6". Yep, I'm 6'6", 260 over here. So
I am not 6'6", 260, so it's making me look small. Again, it was funny. I had so many comments when Taylor Decker was on. Like, just, Tim, you got to sit on something here. I mean, I'm 5'10". I mean, I'm not a small guy, but all right, 6'6". I'm just going to try to do this a little bit here today. But health-wise, with Detroit, you look at the injury reports to start the week. They came out of Chicago pretty clean. Obviously, Jonah Jackson still kind of up in the air there. We'll see if he's able to play, but he was the only one that wouldn't have taken part in practice. You look at the Packers side of it, 16 guys that were either limited or no participant in practice. That's a long list. That's advantage Lions. Well, obviously, 90 minutes before kickoff, but coming into this game, Detroit's definitely the healthier team. And there's some key names on that injury report for Green Bay too.
Yeah, absolutely there is. I mean, that's a big advantage for the Lions because Colby Sorsdale got a start last week. So the guy that they could be without, you've already got that guy replacing him in the lineup at 3 different spots. And I'd be curious to see how he gets better actually getting to play the same position 2 games in a row. But obviously getting Jonah Jackson back is what they want, what they need. But that's the only question mark I feel going into this game. So that's what you want to hear in week 12.
Yeah, you look at the other side. It's Kenny Clark, Rashawn Gary, Jair Alexander, Aaron
Big
Jones.
ones.
I mean, those are key parts of that football team. So, we'll see how that shakes out. All right, Ben, let's do it. Let's get right into the matchups. I tried to maybe switch them up a little bit this week, get some different guys in the mix to talk about, knowing you were coming on. So let's start with this one. Taylor Decker versus Preston Smith. And you look at the tackle duo in Detroit with Taylor and Penei Sewell, and it's got to be one of the better ones in the league. I mean, it allows them to do so much offensively that other teams just aren't able to do because of how good they are. And this is a good matchup with Taylor this week. You look at Decker; he's given up 2 sacks and 3 hits all year. Missed a couple games there with an ankle injury. But this is Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith. It's another one of those we kind of talked about with the Chargers. That's a really good duo there. He's got 5 sacks on the year, and I think him and Penei are going to have their hands full this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Preston Smith had his best game of the season last week, too. I think he had 5 pressures on the Chargers, and I mean, they paid Gary him $100 million for a reason, absolutely. Yeah. But since that game in Green Bay, which was Decker's first after that high ankle sprain or whatever it specifically was, he has been one of the most dependable left tackles in pass protection in the game. And I mean, he's kind of just reminded fans, like, don't rush me out of that spot too soon because I'm one of the best. He's one of the best at what he does in pass protection. 1 sack since week 6. And I mean, Preston Smith, I think he only had 1 pressure in that game against Detroit. I mean, that's a big deal because he's an underrated athlete. He's an underrated powerful pass rusher too. And like, he's just having that Gary and Smith combo on the other side. That's tough, but not too many teams have a Decker or Sewell. I mean, especially the way Decker's pass blocking right now.
Yeah, to your point, 6'5", 265 pounds. I think he uses his length and arms really, really well from the edge position. It's definitely going to be a good matchup there. And I think an important one. The Lions have won a lot of these matchups with these elite guys. You look at the Max Crosbys and the combination of Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, a couple weeks back, and even handling Sweat on Saturday. It's just like every week they kind of do their business, and Detroit will certainly need them to do that at home again. I think that's a good matchup, Taylor Decker and Preston Smith. All right, let's go to the other side of the football. Let's talk about Brian Branch versus Jaden Reed. And I think this is a really, really interesting one because Dan Campbell talked this week about the defensive emphasis being limiting the big plays, keeping everything in front of them. And when you look at this Green Bay offense and you look at Jaden Reed specifically, 7 catches of 30-plus yards this year. That's second only to Tyreek Hill, who's got 11 over in Miami. Like, when they want to go big, he's a big part of what they do there. And Jaden Reed versus Brian Branch, the nickel cornerback for Detroit, who is coming off a terrific game. I think that's an important matchup.
Yeah, 2 super overachieving second-round rookies for sure. Jaden Reed, an MSU kid. I mean, I think he was one of the best players at the Senior Bowl too, but like a really dangerous weapon from the slot, especially when you got the big Christian Watson on the outside and Romeo Doubs who's really coming along. So yeah. And this is probably going to be a run-happy team, especially without Aaron Jones. It's going to be a lot of ground and pound with Dillon. So, I mean, keeping Reed in front of them, especially on those play-action looks that they're going to try and get Branch leading into because he's so good against the run. 3 tackles for loss last week. If he can stay in front of Reed, not let him behind him, I mean, that's how they contain this offense right here because Reed really is, I mean, he keeps getting better. He's a really good route runner, just an underrated burner too. So I mean, just they've got some interesting young wide receivers over there for sure,
and they've got a quarterback who'll take those shots in Jordan Love too. I think he leads the NFL in completions of 25+ yards with 18 of them. I mean, that's more than Tua, that's more than Matthew Stafford, Brock Purdy. I mean, he's ahead of some guys on that list. So they take shots, and it'll be really interesting. Branch is obviously coming off a terrific game. You know, I will lament the 2 third down penalties a little bit there, but look, 6 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, defended a pass. He'll probably tell you should have picked it off. He had a quarterback hit. He's kind of just one of those guys that's all over the place. But I think in coverage this week will be the important one. He has allowed 4 touchdowns in coverage this year. But this will be, I think, maybe one of his better matchups this week against Jaden Reed, a guy who's been making big plays for them all year long.
Yeah, and it's going to be a challenge because he plays with an impressive game speed, Branch does, and he just has a really special ability to match pace and keep step with receivers. And I mean, that's going to be put to the test this week. I might be a second-round rookie, but Reed is really, like you said, he's been their explosive playmaker this year.
All right, speaking of explosive playmakers, look at you, segueing right into this one. Let's go with Jameson Williams, who has come on in recent weeks, obviously had the big touchdown last week, has 3 career touchdowns, all over 30 yards. He's been that big play threat that the Lions drafted him to be. And I think it'll be an interesting matchup this week. You could go with Jair Alexander. You could go with a lot of guys in the secondary. But I picked Rudy Ford because he's kind of been that last line of defense for them. He's been that guy on the back end who's got a couple interceptions. He's pretty good in pass defense. And I say pretty good, but the numbers, I mean, you just look at when he's in coverage, teams are completing 47.4% of their passes. They have a 38 passer rating. He's been really, really good. He's been locked it up. He's got 7 games this year where he's got at least 6 tackles. So he's been a really good kind of last line of defense for them. And he's going to need to be against J-Mo and a guy who's coming on with that speed.
Exactly. Rudy Ford really has been their glue piece with Alexander kind of in and out of the lineup this year for sure. I think top 20 PFF across the board, but as we've seen the last 2 weeks, a comfortable J-Mo with the playbook, with his quarterback, with the offense is creating for a better Jameson Williams, a more reliable Jameson Williams. And I mean, that win doesn't happen last week without him getting wide open in the end zone. And I mean, Rudy's an athlete. Rudy's great in coverage. But when J-Mo is in tune with his quarterback like that, you're not going to be able to keep up with him.
No.
Because when he turned that corner to hit that post to the pylon,
it's different.
There's no player in the league that's able to cover that when he's in that spot at the right time. So I just think it's hard to put a ceiling on his production when he's comfortable, confident, and as Dan Campbell says, he feels like he's one of the guys now. And I think that's been the biggest thing with Jameson Williams this year is like he's kind of felt like a side piece.
Yeah.
Like, I'll work him in here and there. He just feels like one of the guys now. He's getting 30-plus snaps a game. He's getting short looks, medium looks, and it's like, we've said what we have about the drops, but 2 weeks in a row without a drop, making big plays in the fourth quarter, and they're throwing him the ball with the game on the line.
Yeah.
So
he's part of the herd.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and it's great. And it was hard because he missed so many times as a rookie, right? And you're away, and that's so hard. Now you come back at the end of the year, but they've already kind of started that run and you weren't really a part of it so much. And then you have the suspension, you've got to work your way back. But I think that was an important statement by Dan Campbell that he's part of the herd, just one of the guys. And I think he's earned it too with the way that he's stepped in there, done all the right stuff, been in the right spots. And then when you block in the run game and your teammates see that, when they see that Chargers play where he runs 40 yards downfield to make a play and get in front and get your teammate into the end zone, you garner a lot of respect in that locker room. And that's kind of what I've seen over the last few weeks. You're in that locker room with me too. And it just seems like he's kind of one of the guys now. He's a lot more comfortable and he's settled in. And I think that's translating to what we see on the football field.
Yeah, the quickest way to earn the trust and the love of your teammates is those high effort plays and stuff like that. Because, I mean, the guy loves football. You can say what you will about the start to his career. He loves football. He's a high effort guy. Yeah. And he's an easy to like guy in that locker room too. And I mean, he's never lacked confidence, but you just see the comfort. And I think that really matters for him. Another
guy who's really settling in here now halfway into his rookie year is Jahmyr Gibbs. And I think he's got a good matchup this week with Quay Walker. Quay's kind of that guy for them. You saw last week he handled most of the work with Chargers running back
Austin Eckler.
Eckler, thank you. Yep. With Eckler, he was kind of that guy that they chose to kind of do that with. It'll be interesting to see what they decide to do with all the weapons that the Lions have, because how do you stop Laporta? How do you stop Amon-Ra St. Brown? We just talked about Jameson Williams and what he brings in. Now you throw Jahmyr Gibbs into the mix. He had, 6 catches last week. He was a big part of Detroit's passing game. He's got 95 scrimmage yards and a touchdown in 4 straight games. He's really stepped up and been a big part of what they do. But Quay Walker's kind of that guy for them. Their leading tackler. He handles a lot of those jobs. Maybe not a Detroit Lions fan favorite with some of the antics over the last couple of years, but I think that's an important matchup because I think if you're Detroit, you look at that when you're Ben Johnson, let's try to get the hands in Jahmyr in space, because we saw last week, we've really seen it now for the last month and a half. When they do that, good things tend to happen.
Yeah, and Ben Johnson has really known how to attack Quay Walker, winning 3 straight matchup against the Packers. And I mean, Quay Walker is one of those guys, I watch him play against other opponents, and then he plays against the Lions, and he looks like a different guy sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, he gets a little hot. He makes those bad penalties. I mean, he is I was saying he might be one of the Lions fans' favorite players. He's gifted them with a lot of big penalties over the last couple of matchups. But he's a really good player. He's a great athlete. He's better against the run than the pass. And I think the most important thing is you're seeing the Lions use Gibbs and Montgomery when both are healthy and available. And I think this is the week that you get Gibbs into coverage more. You get him in the passing game more. Like, you really put an emphasis on it because you can beat Quay Walker in the pass game.
You know, it's interesting. Dan Campbell talked about this week about, facing a team on a short week and kind of watching the tape and kind of have an idea what they are, just making sure that is the same kind of deal that you see, that some of the things are similar. But on the other side, when you're Green Bay, you look at that week 4 matchup. The Detroit rushed for 212 yards, over 200 yards in that game. But if you look at how they did it, I think it was Montgomery with 32 carries for 121 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jahmyr Gibbs had 8 carries for 40 yards. That was still when Jahmyr was kind of working his way in. They were trying to figure out what he was. I would expect those carries to be more 50-50 now, like we saw last week. And that's a big difference for Green Bay to try to prepare in a quick week, because Jahmyr Gibbs has really become a much bigger part of this offense than he was the first time around week 4.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're 100% right, because I remember sitting in the Appleton airport arguing with every fantasy analyst on the face of the earth that Friday morning. So, no, it's a different offense. It's an evolving offense. And I mean, the way that Gibbs has played since Montgomery's injury and since he's come back, it's undeniable. I mean, you have to find ways to go 50-50 with those guys, whether it's 8 targets and 8 carries for Gibbs and 16 carries for Montgomery. I mean, you have to. They are 2 of the most important players on this team. And I mean, Gibbs is just his comfort and his burst around the corner is starting to
different.
Like I questioned that pick at the time, but now I'm like, okay, I see that vision. Like I see this. I see what they thought in this guy. Like, he's a true weapon, but he's also a true running back at the same time. And it's just, man, they're gonna be tough to defend when guys like Gibbs and J-Mo are arrow up for an 8-2 team.
Yeah, and I think it bodes well for both guys. Speaking of Gibbs and Montgomery, that they're splitting these carries. That no guy is asked to pound the rock for 30 times a game. I think it's going to help them in the long run. You start to come to week 16, week 17, week 18. Some of these guys that see 30, 35 carries every game. I mean, that's going to wear on you. I think in the long run, not only is it good for this offense and what we've seen statistically, but I think it's just good for both of the individuals as well to keep them healthy, humming, and impactful at the end of the year.
Yeah, we saw what happened to Montgomery when he was getting 25 plus carries a game. I mean, those weren't like injuries that were his fault. They were injuries because he was getting smacked 30 to 40 times a game. A rib injury, a thigh injury. I mean, you can only take so many helmets to those areas without an injury. So it's just the fresher you can keep David Montgomery, the better, because that's how they put games away. It's with that guy.
Let's talk about the last one here. A guy I think has been playing really, really well, and sometimes you don't see it in the box score, and that's Aleem McNeil, the third-year defensive tackle. He's coming off a game in Chicago where he had a sack. He's got 5 this year, which is a new career high. I think 2 was his career high going in, and he's going to face a runner that is definitely, when you talk about north and south runners, A.J. Dillon is that. Lions did a terrific job containing the run game in the first matchup. Part of that is because they jumped so far ahead. Green Bay had to change some things that they had to do offensively. But Aleem McNeil is kind of the centerpiece for that Lions run defense. And A.J. Dillon is going to be a guy they're going to try to establish early with that physical north-south run style.
Yeah, I mean, McNeil is right there with Hutchinson and Anzalone as being just the 3 core guys for that defense this year. I mean, he is – I really don't use this word lightly. He's playing at an elite level right now. Like, he's playing like one of the best all-around interior defenders right now. And, I mean, I like A.J. Dillon. He's a power back. He's a throwback back. It's hard not to like those thighs when they're running them at the goal line like that. But career low, 3.5 yards per carry this year, and a lot of that is due to Aaron Jones being in and out of the lineup. I mean, you know how they're going to run A.J. Dillon at you, north and south. The Lions have been pretty good at stopping opposing running backs this year. A lot of that is with Aleem McNeil. So it's like, run at Aleem McNeil at your own risk right now. Like, seriously, he's getting pressure, and he's still the same guy that's stuffing gaps.
It'll be interesting to see if they have Aaron Jones or not. If they don't, I think, like to your point, this run game for Green Bay changes a little bit. It's a little less dynamic, a little less big play potential. I think more inside the tackles, and that means more Aleem McNeil being right in the center there. That's good for Detroit.
No, it's been nice to see him kind of get some national recognition with these primetime games. I remember coming out of that Raiders game and just seeing a lot of like Mike Golick tweets, Nate Tice tweets and stuff. It's like, all right, people are paying attention because like this defense doesn't make the leaps and bounds jumps that they've made this year without that guy in the middle. I mean, that's what you want to see out of a third-year player. This jump changes his body in the offseason to do more across the defensive line, and it translates. Yeah,
I talked to him. He just said, I did that to play on the opposite side of the line of scrimmage more often. He's certainly doing that. That will be a key matchup. Look, it's a short week. It's always tough for the players, but you love the mini bye afterward. Thanksgiving is a tradition here. Those were the key takeaways. He is Ben Raven from MLive. I am Tim Twentyman. We will be back with a player next. Welcome back to the 20 in the Huddle podcast presented by Microsoft, and I have to say I'm excited about this one. I have defensive tackle Benito Jones in the studio, and if you guys don't know, Benito is one of the better personalities that we have on this football team. First, let's open up with this, your style a little bit, because you made the social media airways with the overalls and the Lions ones, and just you're a country guy, right? I mean, you grew up in the country. That's kind of what would you say is the Benito Jones style?
My style, shoot, that's pretty much my style right there. You know, that's very simple right there. That's all I do. I don't dress up. I ain't too fancy. I'm just an old country boy.
It seems like that fits here a little bit, like lunch pail, hard work. Wake up early, go to bed late. I mean, does this city, I know you're a country guy, a Southern guy, but that mentality, that Detroit style seems to fit what you do. Are you a good fit here?
Yeah, I think I'm a great fit here. It's just the mindset. I think the organization that we having right now is all about hard work and being dedicated to what we're doing right now. And that's just 1 week at a time, and just being relentless on what we're doing.
Speaking of relentless and getting it done, you guys showed last week against the Bears that you can win in a lot of different ways. Just how important is that, Benito? You had a shootout the week before. This one, you don't play your best ball, but you still win. Is that important for a team to to show itself that it can win in a lot of different ways, because it is a week-to-week league and you're going to have to win games like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's very important, as a team, we didn't want to be in that position, we would have liked to just, won that game without any, second chances, third chance of trying to win that game. And, we had a few adversities, and, we just stayed together as a team because we knew what we were capable of doing. And, just that game, that game just showed a lot that, we just, going to compete to the, last second on the clock.
You got a bunch of defensive stops in that game. Just how much is that defensive line coming together and you guys playing a lot better? Well, you've been terrific all year against the run. Hutch was able to end it. Like I said, you had those big stops. Just that front seems to be coming together. Aleem's playing really good ball right now. You're playing good ball. Do you guys sense that it's kind of coming all together right now?
Yeah, for sure. We up front, we take care of each other. We want to stop the run, rush the passer, and Mac doing really well and rushing him and Hutch, and we playing really good ball up front collectively, and we just trying to get after the quarterback.
What do you say is your strength? What do you bring to the table up front, and how does your skill set mix in well with Hutch and Aleem and some of the other guys on the other side on the edge?
Well, especially in the run, this being a double team, big guy like me, one person is, going to be in a little trouble and try to block me. So, try to get in one-on-one blocks, and, how fast Hutch and Aleem and Pascal is on the edges. So, just try to get it, eliminate most double teams we can.
You're the guy that does a lot of the dirty work, huh? And that just kind of fits, right?
I see you got to wear the hard hat.
I want to talk to you a little bit about off the field, because I think it's very interesting. You grew up, like I said, down south. You have a trucking company, right? I mean, you have 9 to 5 farms, which is huge. I mean, you buy cows and stuff like that. I mean, just tell me a little bit about what you do in the off season and how much that's a passion of yours.
I mean, my off season, when I get back home, I want to be around my kids, and but I drive a truck when I'm home, but that's just a big passion. I know I love to work on the field, but when I get off the field, I don't worry about the field no more. I try to worry about the things that I love to do away from the field, and that's farming and being a father and being around my family, and actually just seeing myself like running my own business one day. I never saw that coming.
Yeah.
And I always saw my dad. He drove a truck, a log truck as well, and I always watched him do it. Yeah. I never wanted to do it. I just wanted to hunt. And he passed away my freshman year in college, and I just the things he had I always wanted, I got them now. I made sure I had them. I got them, and that's like tractors with cabs, and we couldn't afford cab tractors at the time. So I got I bought a cab tractor, new dually trucks and stuff like that, and and that kind of stuff right there just drives me to show my father he'll be proud of me for like doing what we always talked about.
Your way of paying it forward a little bit.
That's it.
How much is that lifestyle, that off the field stuff, so important to you, to give you just a little bit of balance too, and to get away, and have the peace of mind of football? Here, you're here every day, right? It's grind. It's 18 weeks. It's all about ball. But you got to have kind of that thing that you do that you can get away from the game, recharge the batteries a little bit. Is that the way that you recharge a little bit?
Yeah, like Thursday games, you get to go home Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I make sure I go back home and I enjoy my family, my time, and that right there like brings football to like just to end for a second. Just get it off my mind just for a little while, because like you burn yourself out on it. You'll you'll be in a dark place.
Yeah.
So, I just try to balance it well. Anytime I get, I try to go back home, be around my family and my kids.
How old the kids?
How
old?
6 and 5.
6 and 5. So that's a good age. So now they're just starting to get into sports, doing some of those things. Are they football players?
No, my little girl,
Athletes?
she plays softball. My little boy play football.
Football and softball. All right, I want to talk about Ford Field a little bit and just what that atmosphere has been like. It's going to be crazy on Thursday again, like it has been. These fans have been traveling. Just how much of a home field advantage does that give you guys? And do you talk about that amongst yourselves a little bit when you start to look at the bigger picture in the NFC and wanting to, play games at Ford Field because of that advantage?
I think we got a heck of a crowd, I ain't gonna lie, it brings chills over me. Ford Field is like, it's a really good atmosphere. The fan, like the DJ, he keep you into the game. Like, it's just never a dull moment, And, just playing in Ford Field, it'll be a good one. And then, it's a Thursday night game on Thanksgiving. So, everybody gonna be full of dressing in turkey to be watching the game.
How loud does it really get on the field? Because you play defense, obviously. Right. So, I mean, it's at its peak. Just could you maybe put it into words just how deafening it might get when you're fourth quarter of a close game against Chicago? You guys are down by 5 points. You need that stop. Just how loud that was with some minutes left on Sunday?
That stop, like the stop that we had when they had the ball like 2 minutes and when we were still down, like that stop was loud, but the stop that was like really, really caught my eye that game when Hutch had his script sack.
Oh, yeah.
And then turned it into a safety. Yeah, that thing was rocking.
So do we have, when Benito strips the ball, Benito gets a big sack, you score a touchdown, do you have something in mind? Some kind of celebration? Some kind of dance? Do you?
I'm probably looking for an album pump, depending on how far away I got to run to the touchdown.
That is such a Benito answer. Green Bay on Thursday, playing a little bit better ball of late. Offensively, they've been pretty explosive with some big plays. Dan talked about that being important this week. Just your preparation on a short week for them and the challenge that they pose on Thursday.
What we got to do is just rest our bodies mentally and physically, just be locked in on small things.
Yeah.
And, it's going to be a good game Thursday. Green Bay playing really well. The quarterback, he's a really good athlete, and he can beat you with his legs. You just got to keep him contained, and they're making good plays.
Well, it should be a fun one. Happy Thanksgiving to you, to your family. I know you get to go home afterward. You're enjoying that. Get to get away a little bit. Hopefully you're getting away at 9-2 with a big, big win. Benito, thanks for taking the time, man. I appreciate
Yes, sir.
you.
Thank you.